Hi friends, here we make an analysis of both the operating systems, Linux platform as well as Microsoft Windows platform, and a comparison has been made based on some criteria. They are price, ease of operation, reliability, software, software cost, hardware, security, open source, and support. Let us first of all see what is the difference of price comparing Linux operating system and Windows operating system. The majority of Linux variants are available for free or at a much lower price than Microsoft Windows. In the case of Microsoft Windows, the price range may be perhaps in between 50 to $150. The second point is with reference to the easiness of usage. So as there are many variants for Linux operating systems, so users in general perhaps might find it difficult to use Linux operating systems. But even otherwise, Linux operating systems are themselves user friendly. But in a comparison to Windows, Windows has been identified as much more easier than Linux platform because Windows follows a singular platform. It has been followed by the general users all throughout the world. As Linux has got multiple variants of its own operating systems, there are variations and differences for a common use. And let us come to the third point, which is a reference to the reliability. Linux is more notoriously reliable. That means it has become very famous for its reliability features. One important thing with regard to Linux is that the system need not be rebooted frequently. We can switch it on for a long time, but we cannot do it with the Windows operating system. Windows is supposed to have less reliability compared to Linux operating systems. The next important point here is a reference to software. The software is used in Linux has got a large variety of available software programs, and it has innumerable productions. Both the free and commercial editions are available. And with regard to Windows, Windows has got much larger selection of softwares than Linux platform. Okay, so Linux has got its individual uniqueness in its market, but Windows also as a unique platform has been quite popular amidst the users with its several programs. Now, with regard to the software course, Linux, of course, is a freeware and open source software. The codes of the Linux operating system can be edited by anyone, and a few programs are lower in cost than Windows. Windows releases many softwares which are really very costly. Okay, so this is one reason there is more dependence on Linux operating systems by general users, especially in some government offices. So with regard to the hardware, Linux companies and hardware manufacturers have made great advancements in hardware support for Linux, and today Linux will support most hardware devices. However, many companies still do not offer drivers or support for their hardware in Linux. So this is actually a limitation with regard to Linux operating systems. So at times we may not, if we have bought a new printer or a scanner, particular editions might not have supporting driver files available for making use of the device, external device. But in most of the cases, Microsoft Windows will have driver files, and hardware manufacturers support those systems available to its users. The next important point here is with reference to the security. Linux is more secure than Windows, but Windows is the most vulnerable to viruses. This is a comparison with regard to Linux and Windows. As Linux has got multiple variants of its own, it is very difficult to produce general viruses that could be applied to Linux platforms. But Windows as a unique system and has got almost a common applications, it's easier to attack Windows operating system, and there are many viruses that have been launched against Windows operating system. Even if there is an element of a virus in Linux platform, so the systems may not be really affected with. The next important note is on the open source. Linux is an open source operating system. Its codes can be edited by modified by anyone as a user. But Microsoft Windows does not permit its users to edit the code of an operating system. It is not an open source operating system, and thereby it is not free. And the last point of reference here is a note on the support. Although it may be more difficult to find users familiar with all Linux variants, there are vast amounts of available online documentation and help. This is the same with Windows operating system too. Windows also have help sections within its softwares. There are documentation parts, and there are multiple books available for reference to the application of software utilities. So with this, we come to an end of comparison of Linux with Windows operating systems. Thank you very much.